La bola se vuelve loca. Ábrame la puerta porque me voy. Adiós, Plákata.
Welcome everyone to another episode of Plákata Nation. I'm here joined with mi primo directamente desde el Bronx. What's going on, my man?
Carlos, great to be back. Miss talking to you. Miss talking to our boy Jesus. It's wonderful to be back.
Yes, and of course, Jesus is with us as well. Jesus Ortiz, prolific baseball writer for many, many, many years. So we're glad to have him. He's our baseball insider. And guys, I'm excited about this one, man, because we've been talking about it, and Vladimir Guerrero Jr. has finally agreed to a deal with the Toronto Blue Jays, long-term deal, 14 years, $500 million. Wow, I'm absolutely pumped for him. Very well deserved, and the whole entire trajectory for him to get to this point where he achieves his large contract, homegrown directly with the Toronto Blue Jays. But his journey started way back with his father, right? Being in the clubhouse of Vlad Guerrero Sr., Hall of Fame ball player, and learning from him, being around him. They have a very close-knit family. And now he's a star. Now he's the superstar of the Toronto Blue Jays. He's going to be there for years. He's going to play there his entire career. I'm very excited about this, gentlemen.
I love it. I absolutely love it. I think this is good for baseball. I think this is good for the Players Association. But more importantly, it is great for the fans of Toronto. They deserve to have their biggest stars stay. Every city deserves to have their biggest stars stay in their town. And Vladdy, I think, left a little money on the table, as crazy as that sounds. But also the Toronto Blue Jays made a great commitment. It's a win-win for everybody, and for us who love baseball, who loved seeing the big guys stay in their hometown team. This is beautiful.
I agree 100%, man. Jesus nailed it. There's nothing better when the big star stays on the team. And Vladdy is synonymous with the Blue Jays, synonymous with the country of Canada. He is that guy. He is their guy. And as much as I was touting the fact that I think Vladdy was going to end up in Queens, which I think he was, but I am very happy that we got the opportunity to see him actually agree to stay. He's been wanting to stay. He said it. I want to stay. I want to be a Blue Jay for the rest of my career. And he got it. He got it at the tune of $500 million in 14 years. And again, Jesus, right on point. He left money on the table. He did, because I really do think there would have been a feeding frenzy to get that guy. And let me be 100% clear. I'm gonna trickle back to my Mets thing. I find it very ironic and funny that on the weekend that he was playing against those New York Mets is when everything started. I really do feel that ownership and the GM saw him being a little too chummy with Lindor, with Soto, with Siri. Look at that. Look at him hugging Pete. Pete was whispering and said, "Yo, bro, I'll be DH. Don't worry about it. Just come here." I'm telling you, that shook them to their core. And Toronto ownership said, we need to get a deal done.
Like right there? Is that what you think?
Right
he was
there.
saying like that?
Right there. Listen, there, Lindor was telling Vladdy, yo,
we want you here.
Come here. We want you here. When you come here, we're going to win. This is going to be our town. This is going to be a Met town. We're going to have everybody jumping. There's going to be Dembo playing from all the cars.
In and out of City Field. Like this, what do you think he was saying? He was like, hey, I'm here.
It's out of my hands. It's out of my hands, bro. It's out of my hands. It's out of my hands. But listen, look what ended up happening. I'm proud. I'm happy for him. I'm very, very happy for him, because this is what he really wanted. He wanted to be a Blue Jay. He got what he wanted. Now, I really hope that the Blue Jays as an organization do right by him, and even more, build around him more so. Because now you have to. Now you committed to this player. Now you have to commit to winning.
Yeah, that's the key. Right now, you see that, Jesus, is the fact that I think now that he's there, he could bring players over, right? Like he would attract players to come over with him. He becomes, part of the organization. He's a pillar, of course. But now he is, very, very much so deep in the fabric of the organization. So he almost becomes a semi GM, if we could say that, right? So he's already eyeing like, okay, who's going to be available next year? How can we make our team better? Because obviously he wants to win. But this is a great move, Jesus. I mean, this is the homegrown star is staying home, and the fans love him there. So this is not only a great baseball move, but I believe this is also a great business move for the Toronto Blue Jays.
I tell you what, I was gonna do a tweet joking because we had a couple. Esquina had a couple guys at Citi Field for their home opening series and their home opener. Those videos are the equivalent of you're really in love with somebody. They're at the club with you, but they don't want to commit. And then you walk into the club and all the honeys are like, hey, Vladdy, we love you, man. We love you. Everybody's giving them love. And then your person says, you know what? I better step up or else, because I was going to make a joke because we kept getting these videos, these pictures of Vladdy, and I was going to say, Vladdy with his new teammates, 2026. And I'm glad I did it because then I would have looked stupid because I swear I almost wonder if they literally had this deal in place just so they could leak it while they're in the capital of the world, New York City, and remind everybody he ain't going anywhere. He is a Toronto Blue Jay. Good for Toronto. Good for baseball. Good for the fans.
100%.
How about all the tactics, right? Like you talking about, look, we're not having any conversations. As soon as spring training ends, we're not having a conversation about contracts. But in reality, that's really never true, right? I mean, the door is always open as long as the figures are heavy or they're worthy. The contract is actually, let's say, they have the right number in front. That's one of the things. So it's like, it has to start with a 5. I'm like, wow, it has to start with a 5 to start the conversation. All right. Well, the door's always open as long as you have that right number. And the 5 was the correct one. It opened the door and the deal is already sealed and completed. So this is really great news, really exciting. Now we look at the 3 biggest contracts in all of Major League Baseball. We have Juan Soto and Vladimir Guerrero Jr. and Ohtani, right? Yep. And 2 of them are from the Dominican Republic. So for Latin Americans, this is obviously an amazing, happening. This is an amazing occurrence. And it just speaks volumes of how far we've come. I don't know. I feel very proud. I feel very proud of, even because of my own experiences with Vlad Guerrero Jr. when he was in the minor leagues. I did this piece with him. We really hit it off, and he had not even stepped into a big league diamond yet. I did this great reporting really on what he was doing over there in the minor leagues, and we went through his workout. All right, and we put together this great piece. I mean, this went crazy when we did it, and he had not yet played. When I went over, they had not yet played in the big leagues, and of course, he walks it off. It's one of those things that you're like, okay, this is going to go in history as one of the best pieces that I've ever done. Well, guess what? Vladimir Jr. is in the middle of it, and now 6 years later, or 5 years later, whatever that was, here he is signing one of the most lucrative contracts in all of Major League Baseball. We saw it coming, but you can think of many things or have many visions, but when you see him actually come to fruition and realize, God, that is rewarding. This kid respects Jesus. Rod, listen to this. This kid respects his past. He respects his family name, his dad. He wears that last name with a lot of pride, and he understands that that's a lot of responsibility. So when you conduct your life with respect to those who came before you, that is a good approach to going out there and just facing, the challenges that, life throws at us. This kid has done it beautifully. And now the best is yet to come.
How many, I'm not even talking about baseball players, just sports stars in general that we hype up from a young age that live up to that. Not the success stories are very few amongst all these, the story of hype. And Vlad Jr. is one of those guys who you heard so many whispers, this kid's going to be great, this kid's going to be great, this kid's going to be really great. And I mean, for the most part, he's lived up to it. That's wild to me, man. And this is a success story for him and for his family.
And I tell you what, one thing that I thought of and I remembered is a great conversation I had with the legendary Felipe Alou after his first season, where he kind of struggled with Vladdy struggled with looking prepared, looking in shape. And if you look at that video that Carlos did with Vladdy early, and you look at Vladdy now, the guy transformed his body. He worked. Yeah. Look at that big kid. And now that kid is at least 25 pounds heavier than what he looks like now. And these guys are competitive. These guys have a lot of pride. And Felipe Alou told me, like, hey, I hope he learns from this. And Felipe doesn't speak just to speak. Felipe speaks to deliver a message. And I was like, wow. And it was on the record, and he wanted it. People care about this guy in the Dominican. And now what he chases is baseball immortality. Baseball immortality, because this guy can make history as the first son of a Hall of Famer to be inducted in Cooperstown if he stays healthy and if he continues and lives up to his potential. I really do believe that Vladimir Guerrero Jr. can be a Hall of Famer one day.
I agree 100%, man. I mean, you got to look at the fact that, and again, I'm going to go back to what we said at the beginning, where we have stars and we got guys that are staying in their teams, and second generation in particular. You got Vlad Jr., you have Fernando Tatis with the Padres. You got there. It is vital for the health of the game that we have these guys remain with their teams, and that these guys are so important to the teams, that are great players and that make an impact on the field, and it is vital that this continues throughout the game, because that is what we want with the game. That's the growth of the game. And having stars like Vlad, like Tatis Jr., like Ohtani, like Judge, like Lindor, like Soto, in these positions to do this, super important.
You saw that, yes, of course, he's had some struggles throughout the years. So hasn't been just a straight line to success, right? He's gone through some tough times. But then when you look at the tough times, you're like, wait a second. This is Vlad Guerrero Jr. doing bad, and he's still hitting, 280. He's still, capable of hitting, 20-some home runs, put together some good at-bats. So even at his worst, he's one of the better players in all of baseball. So a very good investment if you think about also his durability. This guy plays every day. He does not shy away from being out there between the lines. So I'm thinking, Jesus, I know that this is difficult. I know this is lingering too, because obviously his father is a Hall of Famer, and that's the bar. The bar is extremely high. Now, does he go out there and try to become a Hall of Famer in one day? No, he understands that this is a steady process. This is about showing up every single day and really putting together quality performances on a daily basis. So it's more about consistency than anything else, and holding that standard of excellence, every single day you go out there between the lines. I think he understands that. It's a long way to Cooperstown, but that is on the table. And the good news is that, hey, that pursuit of greatness is going to be happening with the Toronto Blue Jays, the team that gave him the opportunity to become a big leaguer. And he's still in Canada. Remember that Vlad Guerrero Sr. had incredible seasons for the Montreal Expos out in Canada. So Canada and the Guerrero family have a very close relationship. So I don't know, this is a great, great time. And I couldn't be happier for the Guerrero family, and particularly thinking about Vlad Guerrero Sr. and how proud he is of his son, and how good his son must feel to be able to get to this point. Forget about the monetary accomplishment. Like, hey, my life is taking care of this and that. I have wealth beyond measure. No, let's think about, hey, your father was a Hall of Famer. Your father accomplished so much in this game, and here you come. You're making a statement. You're being recognized as one of the best ever with that type of contract. So just hats off. I'm grateful and excited about it.
And somewhere, Wilton Guerrero should be very proud, because we all know that Wilton played a crucial, if not the most important role in developing his nephew, Vladimir. Kudos to Wilton Guerrero Jr. Wilton Guerrero.
Yeah. Indeed. Gentlemen, moving on to a little bit more of a difficult topic, but this is important to touch upon. Is Jarren Duran had some very, very powerful statements, and watching the Netflix documentary, he spoke very openly about the fact that he thought about taking his own life and that he actually tried it.
I got to the point where, sitting in my room, I had my my rifle, and I had a bullet, and I pulled the trigger and the gun clicked, but nothing happened. So to this day, I think God just didn't let me take my own life, because I seriously don't know why it didn't go off. But I took it as a sign of all right, I might have to be here for a reason.
I was like, all right, do I want to be here or do I not want to be here? And it's almost like a moment of reckoning. And there you see it. You see that tape, the wrist tape, and you see how he writes, "Still alive." That has goodness. That has so much power. And more so now that he's sharing all this openly, right? And I like this, gentlemen. I like that athletes and these superstars that so many kids, so many people look up to, idolize, and sometimes make them like if they were gods, are being more transparent about their own struggles, right? And people now are able to relate, and they're utilizing their platform to help others. This is monumental. And, for Jarren Duran, this is one of those things that was probably very difficult to speak about. However, he understands that he has a responsibility, at least he feels like he has a responsibility to share it, to help others around him and beyond.
I have to say, God bless Jarren Duran. And let me tell you something. In our community, in the Latino community, the Dominican, Mexican-American, Mexican, we need to do a better job of removing the stigma of getting help, of getting mental health help. With this revelation, Duran's going to help a lot of people. Young people everywhere are going to see a superstar, the MVP of the last All-Star game, a guy who got serious MVP votes last year. I know he was on my MVP ballot. And you're going to see a big, strong, young, powerful man say, you know what? I needed help. I almost took my life. It is okay to seek help. This is, and I'm not full of hyperbole here, this is the most important thing that has happened in Major League Baseball this early season, because this could help save lives. We always talk about life and death, and these are just games. These are just artists showing us their beautiful craft. But beyond that, and this is my entire career, when people ask me, what do you love the most about your career, what you do, is taking the veil off and taking the reader in the background. But every once in a while, the players tell you something that you're like, wow. Jarren Duran removed the veil and showed a side that people need to see. We in the Latino community need to accept that mental health issues are there, and we can attack them with other people's help. And God bless this young man. I love what he has done for America, because many young people, I think, will benefit from seeing that this big, tough dude who hits monster home runs has shown them that, hey, even the most powerful people need some help.
Yeah, there's
I
humility
agree.
there, right? That humility, Rod, like that's so important. Like, doesn't matter how strong we are, how big we are, how tough we are, right? Like humility
Yeah.
comes, precedes honor, right? That, I mean, there's a huge quote in the Bible that I think it's so powerful. It talks about like humility precedes honor. It brings honor, and the opposite happens when we have that spirit of arrogance. So for him to be able to come through like that and speak openly, it's pretty much humility personified.
100%. I've been affected by suicide in my life. I've had a family and friends who've taken their lives, and it was terrible. It's terrible, but not just for me, but I feel for the families that are left behind. And to get to that level is such a difficult thing to understand. But the and Jesus said it perfectly. In the Latin community, there's this horrible stigma of asking for help because you're afraid of being ridiculed. You're afraid of being made of an example of. And also, more importantly, though, growing up, you never really saw that, especially from among the elders in your own family. The fathers, the mothers. All we know is that they tied their shoes, they went to work, they dealt with the struggle and endured, and we feel like we got to do the same no matter what voices we hear in our head that are destroying us inside. But to have a guy like Jarren Duran come out and publicly put this out there to set the example and set the bar of, no, it's okay to feel these things, it's okay to feel these feelings, it's okay to talk about them, get the help you need, whether it's through faith, whether it's through a social club, whether it's through your team. It's always vital and important to ask for help. Never, ever, ever be afraid. Never, ever consider this that you look weak. There is no such thing as weakness when it comes to these sorts of things, because you matter and you value in life to yourself, but to others as well. And this is a major point in Jarren Duran. Jarren Duran's going to have a long career, God willing, and a lucrative career. But this right here might be the most important thing he's ever done, because this is going to help millions of people in all walks of life, young and old, to do these things. The game of baseball is a game, but the game of life is something more. And we are all important pieces, no matter what.
Beautifully stated, Primo. We thank Duran for being so open. And speaking of being open, how do you feel about this, guys? Because I don't know. I'm for being genuine, right? Like, especially when you look at these athletes. We saw Sasaki have a tough outing, and he was clearly emotional. And let's just say that the camera caught him. If anything, he got criticized for this, but I'm thinking to myself, man, this guy's wearing his emotions on his sleeves, and it shows you that he cares deeply about the game and performing. And look, the pressure is real. But this was tough. I mean, this was tough to see, even though I could certainly relate. You know how many times I felt like crying when I struck out 4 times in a game, or had a horrible game, or had a bad streak. Trust me, we have all been there. All right. He was just caught on camera. The things that happen behind closed doors, showing frustrations, how many bats did I slam, or how many helmets did I, throw against the wall because I was so frustrated. Hand in your knees, face and hands on your knees, just totally devastated because, you're in a deep slump or you had a bad outing. I mean, I like that we're getting a window into seeing that these guys are human. And guess what? Do you think Sasaki's not going to go out there and absolutely dominate, he will. He will. We'll see that too. But it's kind of refreshing to see that, hey, these he's just a kid, by the way, like young,
23
early
years
20s,
old. 23.
I mean, come on. So, let's give him some grace, and let's appreciate the fact that he cares and wears his emotions on his sleeve. They say there's no crying in baseball or whatever, and there's a lot of memes out there and a lot of comments and texts. All I see is a kid that wants to perform and really live up to the contract that he was given, the opportunity that he was given. He wants to perform. So I'm okay with it. I honestly wanted to go over there and be like, hey, kid, it's going to be all right. Through the television, I wanted to be like, it's going to be all right, So what do you guys think about that? I mean, we're having genuine emotions here, Jesus.
I love the emotions in baseball. We had the let the kids be kids, let them have fun. But it's also important to remember that these guys are putting everything out there. I think most of the fans, most of the people who ridicule these guys, fans, media, whoever, have never been in these shoes and would shrink at the test, at the challenge. So I think of Framber Valdez, who's been very open on the benefits of seeing a counselor to help him control his emotions. There is so much into this that people who have never played, I will never understand the weight that Carlos Peña felt at the plate when this is your career, this is your livelihood. And for many, it's their identity.
Yeah.
And you're in a new country, new team, trying to adjust against the greatest in the world. So when you see Framber Valdez struggle in the 2022 World Series, in the 2020 World Series, and then succeed, 2021 World Series, and then in 2022, dominate and win 2 games with the help of counseling. These guys are human. There's a lot at stake, and fans need to appreciate. And social media is horrible. Social media is the worst because every idiot can say that you don't know what you're doing, but then you ask them to throw 60 miles per hour, they can't throw 60 miles per hour. If I were to give advice to players and say, hey man, don't listen to social media, took it out, just post your stuff and then never look at it again. I think it would help a lot because we're growing up in a society of cowards where people take shots and would never tell you the same thing to your face.
Right. They're hiding behind the platform. That is so, cowardice at its maximum. Okay. Because you could say whatever you want, but you never have to stand up behind your statement. Just have one of those handles and that's it. And you can say whatever you want. You got a kid like Sasaki going out there and trying to do his job, and he gets hit around or whatever, things don't go its way, or if you're a hitter and you strike out 4 times, leaving a bunch of runners on base, every single fan in the stands, 50,000 of them are watching you. Everyone is watching on television. Everybody wanted you to do it, and you didn't come through. And guess what? You have to live with that. You have to find a way to deal with that and then come back the next day. That's a lot easier said than done. And then people will write on Instagram or in X, that's what they pay you for. So I got no, sympathy for you. God, that is so easy to say behind, a tweet or an X post. I mean, come on. So
Yeah, I agree. I think it's, sports, professional sports is already hard as it is. Being a baseball player is hard as it is, but then you have to throw in the mental aspect of what it is to be a baseball player, keeping up with your end of the bargain in terms of production, living up to a contract. Then on top of that, again, the stuff that we don't see as fans, living up to being a family, living up to being a husband or a father, or a son. You know what I mean? Like those are other things. So it's like you're as a professional athlete, you're juggling so many things on your shoulders, and it can be so difficult. So to see Sasaki there showing emotion, he's a 23-year-old kid. Culture shock. He's from Japan. He's now living in California, in LA, under the brightest lights possible in MLB as a Dodger. You know, like these are things that you got to look at, and you got to cut some of these guys slack in terms of what is. He's a rookie. He's a rookie. Granted, he played professionally in Japan, but still, he's a rookie here in MLB, learning a new language, learning new things, being around new teammates. So I'll be honest with you, I give him credit for showing that emotion. I wouldn't be able to do that because I'd be too afraid. I'd be too afraid to even let my eyes water in front of camera like that. I give him credit for showing that. To me, that right there is an example of, is almost as good as an example of what Jarren Duran did, where it's like, let's show this vulnerability. And yeah, people may look at it and be like, oh, well, I don't like that. That doesn't show mental toughness, blah, 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 blah. Well, listen, let's be 100% real here. What do we want from our athletes? What do we want from us as human beings? We want to be able to be like, listen, yeah, I want you to be tough, but I am also okay with you being vulnerable. You know why? Because that shows me that you freaking care. He cares. He wants to perform for the Dodgers. He wants to perform for the Dodger faithful that go and pay a lot of money to go see those games. He wants to perform for people that tune in around the world, including his country, because that's the other thing we got to look at. How many eyes from Japan are up late watching these games or up early watching these games? There's a lot going on there with Sasaki, and it's okay for him to show those emotions. Go ahead, bro. Do what you got to do. Don't worry about it. You're going to learn to grow and learn to adjust with these things. And you know what? Anybody that says anything against that or is different, man, I feel sorry for you, because that just shows me that you mentally aren't there to accept what is going on right now. We're all about helping people here. We're all about being examples as human beings to others. Doesn't matter where you are, what walk of life you are. You could be a person getting $40 million a year playing a professional sport, or you could be a guy that's going to work in a factory somewhere. It's okay to show your emotions. It's okay to be open. It's okay to be vulnerable. And it's okay to ask for help. It's okay.
We can even argue the fact that it actually takes more courage to actually come forward.
100%.
Express your emotions rather than hide them, right? So, look, when I see that video of Sasaki, I relate so much, because there's many times that I felt exactly the same way. And if there was a camera on my face, you probably would have seen my eyes watered as well. So I feel for him. I'm with him. And I'm pulling for him because I want him to succeed, and have a great career here in the States. And speaking of difficulty, we're going to move on to Rafael Devers, and now that I talk about struggling, stuff like that, goodness, guys, this, Rafi Carita started 0 for 19, okay? 0 for 19, especially with all the talk and all the stuff around him. It was just even heavier on him. 0 for 19, a bunch of strikeouts. I think it was like 13 strikeouts out of the 19 at-bats. It was something ridiculous like that. And you literally feeling right there like, did I just forget how to hit? Like, what happened? But let me tell you that now he is 10 for his last 19. And he's gone off. And I cannot tell you how difficult that is, right? Like, to go 0 for your first 19, especially after all that talking straight training, all that drama, and he's able to somehow, look, Boston is tough. The fans care. The fans are on you, okay? The media all over you, all the interviews, talking to you about Bregman, this and that. And you start 0 for 19. Are you kidding me? Can it get any worse? And you still find a way to come back and play the game and contribute. Because at the end of the day, those games that you just played are over, right? And whether you won or lost, those are gone. But can you help the team win today? Well, it seems like Devers was able to do that, right? He found it. And he's like, no, all that matters is today. But I cannot understate, or let's say, let's put it this way, I cannot overstate how impressive and how difficult it is to bounce back. You want to crawl into a hole. That's what you want to do when things are going that bad, and you want to disappear. And instead, he steps up, and here he is again, absolutely raking. All right, and everybody's on their feet clapping for Devers, as they should. So very, very impressed with how resilient, tenacious, determined, and how strong and tough Devers has been here at the beginning of the season.
I mean, listen, he is crucial to that team. If that team wants to succeed and wants to find itself in the World Series, it's going to need Devers. So the fact that he is starting to click, and look what happened last week. Player of the week was Alex Bregman. You know, like those are things where, you know, once those wheels start going and this Red Sox train starts going off, that's a tough team to beat. But it's tough because Rafael Devers is hitting the ball. And, you know, he could have hit it. I was afraid there for a minute. I was afraid. I was like, oh man, it's noise getting too much for him. But look at what happened. That's mental fortitude, man. That's toughness.
Unbelievable.
Toughness. Listen, we've been talking about mental health stuff. You can't sit there and tell me Devers wasn't looking in the mirror like, man, what's going on with me? What's going on?
Of course.
He's probably had those conversations, Carlos.
A lot of soul searching. Yes, bro. Absolutely.
You know, that's how it is.
I tell you, Jesus, it is tough. Baseball is tough. You know, because Tristan Casas had actually on the same doc that we were talking about, and Jarren Duran had a statement. In that same doc, Tristan comes forward and talks about how difficult it is because in baseball, you can do everything perfect and still not get good results, right? So it's not even guaranteed. Check this out.
I dedicated my life to this game.
Listen.
It's tough when you go up there because you're vulnerable. You can do everything right and still have a bad result.
Yeah.
Sometimes you become your own worst enemy. You spewing these negative vibes, this negative frequency, it affects you. It affects your body. It affects your mentality.
Yeah.
And for him to say that, he's coming from such a vulnerable place because Tristan has prepared, man. He's prepared for the highest level. He's not in the MLB. He's not playing first base for the Red Sox because he's ill-prepared. He's there because he's prepared, because he's the best option for them.
Yeah.
So for him to feel that he's done that work and still it doesn't work, man, sports can be so amazing, but it can be so humbling at the same time.
Come on. Tell me about it. No, it's also a reflection of life, Jesus. When you look at the fact, and this is how we're gonna, get introduced the quote of the day, because sometimes we think about success and we think that it's linear, right? Well, hey, success. That's where I'm going. This is what I got to do. These are the steps. You're gonna make it. No, there is no guarantees. There are no guarantees, but I'll tell you this. Actually, there is a guarantee. If you don't try at all, if you don't give it your best, and if you just fold, I guarantee you will not get anywhere. If you don't give the best out of yourself, there's only one direction that you're going to go, and that's just stay at the bottom. Or let's say you're not even going to go anywhere. You're going to stay at the bottom of whatever endeavor it is that you take on. So that's the one guarantee. But the difficulty about this, and this is why I want to introduce a quote of the day, is Winston Churchill talks about this. He says, success is walking from failure to failure with no loss of enthusiasm. So think about it. It doesn't mean that you're not going to get upset because you failed. You saw Casas right there really get upset, really get frustrated, slamming the helmet, and he's talking to himself. But guess what he does? He grabbed the ball and started throwing it around to his teammates, started doing what he kept going. He didn't fold. He kept going. Now, it feels horrible. But guess what? Going from failure to failure, keeping the enthusiasm. It doesn't. Being enthusiastic doesn't mean that you're always oh yes, let's go. Let's be honest. Sometimes you gotta maybe talk to yourself, slow down. It's come on, man, what's going on here? And then you get back. You have to release some of that emotion. I'll tell you what. If you do not release that emotion, you're not going to be able to be enthusiastic about anything if you keep it inside. So that's a great technique right there that Tristan just pretty much displayed. It's look, let me get this out of me, because in less than 2 or 3 minutes, I'm going to have to be playing defense. So I can't keep this aside. So he started just, dropping F-bombs everywhere, whatever he's got to do to release all that so that he doesn't carry what you're talking about, Rodney, that negative vibe that's going to continue to affect him. So sometimes you fail, you have to analyze it and then release it and let it go and move on to the next challenge. And you keep going and you keep going, and it increases your chances to succeed. So it's no guarantee, but every single time you do the right thing, okay, whatever that may be, whatever your strategy is, you increase your chances of reaching your goal.
Yeah, one thing that I want to point out that we should take from this podcast is the different examples of what stress looks like. What, you think of Dr. Andy Nunez, the sports psychologist who worked with Framber Valdez. You think about Tristan Casas, how he deals with it. You think about Sasaki. Everybody deals with success and failure differently, and there's no wrong answer. And that's important for us to realize that, hey, it's okay. Some people get angry. Some people shed a tear. They're introspective. Some people have to talk to themselves. And some people just need to be left alone. But what we need to understand is that these young men, as strong as they are human. They're vulnerable. And I think journalists have to do a good job of humanizing these players, of showing the world that Carlos Peña isn't just a number on the back of a jersey. He's somebody's son, somebody's dad, somebody's spouse, somebody's sibling. And Casas, Valdez, Sasaki, Duran, they all have something besides baseball. Their value is not baseball. Their value is their humanity, first and foremost.
No, it's a beautiful way to come to, to wrap this episode and, wrapping it up again, repeating the words of the great Winston Churchill when he says that success is walking from failure to failure without losing your enthusiasm. Guys, success is not linear. So everyone out there listening to us, there will be challenges, but guess what? We are equipped to meet them. And let's not be afraid to share how we feel. Be open about how you feel. And if you need help, get help. All right? Because that is not a show of weakness. It's actually a show of strength when you have that humility to say, hey, I need help. Can you help me? So encourage everyone out there, all the listeners, to go out and take this into the rest of the week. And let's be resilient. All right? Let's keep on pressing forward. And let's make sure that we are genuine, right, with everyone around us and most importantly with ourselves. All right? So with that, we end today's episode in Plákata Nation. And we are out. Thanks for joining us. Plákata! Today's episode of the Plákata Nation podcast was produced by the Esquina Podcast Network. Executive produced and edited by Ras Guevara. Additional engineering support and publishing by Francisco Castro. Be sure to subscribe, rate, and review us wherever you listen. It really helps us grow the show. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next week.
Adios, Plákata.